They slept on the floor and survived brutal winters. The Viking heat hack modern homes forgot. The cold didn't just visit Viking lands. It ruled them. Long nights, frozen ground, wind that cut through bone. And yet these people didn't rely on roaring fires the way you might think. In fact, one of their most powerful survival tricks sat right beneath their feet. No flames, no smoke, just pure, controlled warmth. And today, most homes completely ignore it. Welcome back to Ancient Tactics. Let's break down the forgotten floor hack that helped Vikings beat winter, and why it still works right now. The hidden heat beneath your feet. Most people think warmth comes from above. Heaters, fires, warm air rising. But the Vikings flipped that idea. They understood something simple but powerful. Heat doesn't just rise, it can be stored. And if you store it right, it stays with you. Viking homes, often longhouses, were built low and tight. But the real magic was in the floor. Instead of treating the ground as something cold and dead, they turned it into a heat battery. Layers of organic material, like straw, animal skins, and compacted earth, created insulation. But here's the trick. These layers trapped body heat and whatever little warmth was available, holding it close instead of letting it escape. You weren't just standing on the floor. You were standing on stored warmth. Why fire wasn't always the answer. Fire is powerful, but it's also dangerous, inefficient, and hard to maintain for long periods, especially in harsh conditions. Vikings use fire, yes, but they didn't depend on it the way modern survival guides often suggest. Constant fire meant constant fuel. Wood had to be gathered, dried, protected. Smoke had to be managed in enclosed spaces, and in extreme cold, losing a fire even for a short time could be deadly. So they built a system that didn't collapse when the fire died down. Their floors held on to warmth from bodies, from brief fires, even from sunlight during the day. It was slow heat, steady heat, reliable heat. And here's the part most people miss. The human body produces around 100 watts of heat at rest. Multiply that by several people in a confined, insulated space, and suddenly you have a consistent heat source. The Viking floor system trapped that energy instead of letting it vanish into the frozen ground. The layering strategy that changed everything. This wasn't random. It was intentional design. At the base, compacted earth acted as thermal mass. It absorbed heat during the day or when fires were lit. Above that came insulating layers, straw, moss, furs. These materials trapped air, slowing down heat loss. Air is a poor conductor, which makes it perfect for insulation. Then came the living layer. People slept, sat and worked close to the ground. Not on raised beds far from the heat source, but right where warmth was concentrated. It's a simple idea. Lower yourself closer to the heat reservoir. Keep the heat from escaping. Let the system do the work. Even during World War II, soldiers in extreme cold environments rediscovered similar principles. Improvised bedding using straw, fabric and ground insulation often made the difference between survival and frostbite. The lesson was the same. Insulate from below or lose heat fast. Modern homes get this completely wrong. Walk into a typical house today and, well, you'll see the opposite strategy. Heat is pumped into the air. High ceilings just let that warmth drift upward. Floors feel like ice, especially in the colder seasons. We've built systems that fight physics, instead of, working with it. Cold floors pull heat from your body through conduction. You feel colder, so you turn up the heating. More energy, more cost, less efficiency. The Vikings would look at this and, honestly, shake their heads. They knew the ground could either steal your heat or store it. The difference came down to how you built the layers. How you can use this ancient tactic today. You don't need to rebuild your home into a longhouse, but you can steal the principle. Start with your floors. Rugs aren't just decoration. Thick, layered rugs act like the Viking straw and fur system. They trap air and reduce heat loss. The thicker and denser, the better. If you want to go further, consider layered flooring setups. Foam mats under carpets, natural fibre materials like wool. These mimic the insulating properties of ancient materials. Even something as simple as sitting or sleeping closer to the floor in a well-insulated space can make a difference. Heat concentrates lower when it's properly trapped. You feel warmer without increasing energy use. Another overlooked move is sealing drafts at floor level. Small gaps near the ground leak heat faster than you think. Vikings built tight structures for a reason. Airflow control is everything. And here's a powerful modern upgrade. Radiant floor heating. It's essentially the high-tech version of the Viking idea. Heat stored and distributed through the floor itself. It's one of the most efficient heating methods available today because it works with natural heat behavior, not against it. The psychology of warmth. There's also a mental side to this. Humans associate warmth with comfort, safety, survival. When your feet are warm, your entire body feels warmer. It's not just physical, it's neurological. Vikings lived close to their heat source. They didn't isolate themselves from it. That constant, subtle warmth created a stable living environment, even in brutal conditions. Modern systems blast heat intermittently. On and off, high and low, it's less stable, less natural. The Viking method was quiet, consistent, always there. Why this still matters today? Energy costs are rising, weather patterns are shifting, and people are starting to realize that older methods often hold answers modern systems ignore. This floor-based heat strategy isn't just historical curiosity. It's practical, it's efficient. And it's proven by centuries of survival in some of the harshest climates on Earth. You don't need to abandon modern technology. You just need to combine it with ancient intelligence. That's the real lesson here. The Vikings didn't survive because they were stronger. They survived because they understood how to work with their environment. They turned the ground itself into an ally. And that's a tactic worth remembering. Final thoughts. The next time your home feels cold, don't just look at the thermostat. Look down. The answer might be right under your feet, waiting to be used the way it was 1,000 years ago. If you found this useful, subscribe to Ancient Tactics for more forgotten survival strategies that still work today. Share this with someone who's always cold. And stay ready.